Wood Harris here on the Rich Eisen Show, and we're back here on our terrestrial radio outfit right here, Wood Harris. We just showed a clip of Shooting Stars available tomorrow on Roku about LeBron James' high school basketball team, available on Peacock right here on Roku. So how much did LeBron have a hand in this making? I know obviously Mav Carter, I'm sure as well.
I mean, he had everything to do with it. He and Maverick, they produced it. Obviously, he wasn't there all the time, but the young actor who portrays him, Mookie is his name, had a lot to do with LeBron. I didn't have very much. I had more to do with Coach Drew.
And you spoke to Coach Drew?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time with Coach Drew.
What was that conversation like?
Well, I mean, in the process, you do a biopic and you want to be, if you're portraying someone, you need to know things that aren't on the surface. So, and when you're digging, like if I had to portray you, I need to know things. You're a very funny guy. Excuse me. You're a funny person, so you want to know what makes you upset. So sometimes you can't imagine a person that's funny just frowning,
Yes.
And so I was digging for things like that, and I realized that, it ain't a bad bone in his body. So there's a challenge there.
Yeah.
Because I got bad bones. So a couple of them, and he's just really sweet-natured person, very compassionate, and I'm like that. But he was able to pull that out of me even more.
Interesting. And did he tell you stories about LeBron that you were able to use?
He told me stories about LeBron. All of them did. His childhood friends, unique stories. Just for the most part, he's always been kind of amazing at things, all things sports, football and basketball for sure.
Right.
For sure. Like they have big fish stories football-wise
Yes.
about LeBron. So. Yeah, so I think he can throw. I think he can throw the ball and go catch it.
Yes.
And score.
Well, apparently he was a great tight end.
Yes, he was.
He was, and
he could have been a pro player, for sure. As we know, I mean,
I think he chose the right sport.
He definitely chose the right sport.
And now he's the all-time leading scorer of the NBA. You're playing the high school coach of the kid who goes and beats Kareem's record, and you also play a teammate of Kareem's in winning time.
Oh, that's right.
Which is kind of crazy. And so, you playing Spencer Haywood in winning time, you met with him too, I'd imagine.
I did, yeah.
What was that conversation about? Because, I mean, you played a very difficult time in Spencer Haywood's life and winning time. Wood.
I was concerned about making him look. I mean, the authenticity and the honesty of it. I want that there.
Yes.
But not at the expense of the person I'm portraying. So that they maybe have to deal with something away from the movie and whatnot. People, the real world. So you portray real life people who are alive, and they have to deal with it more than I do. So one of my things after speaking to him was I just kind of knew what kind of person he was. And he gave me the freedom to really express that time in his life. And I felt really good about that. He gave me the freedom to express the ills of his life openly and with my interpretation, given his recipe to it. So he's a great guy. He's relatively young because he was young. He was the first guy to go pro the way everyone does now.
And interestingly enough, Wood Harris here on the Rich Eisen Show, I mean, LeBron wouldn't have come straight from high school if it wasn't for Spencer Haywood suing, or the league sued the Seattle Sonics for signing him out of high school as the story. And that went to the Supreme Court, for crying out loud.
Unbelievable.
And Spencer Haywood was a significant figure in the history of the NBA, and LeBron was able to follow in some footsteps.
And Kobe and everyone.
Garnett.
Yeah,
you could
Garnett.
keep going on and on. Right?
Moses Malone.
Sure.
A lot of players came right out of high school, a few of them, and he kind of gave them the blueprint. But he took a hit. Yeah, he took a hit. People don't know who he is, actually. And so the predecessor to that, what's so normal today, is not available, in terms of the NBA. So I think it's more so now, in later part of his life. But we've always heard that name, Spencer Haywood. If you listen to basketball at all, watch basketball, you've always heard that name. But I feel like as time has gone on, you know that name, but you can't associate it to anything. Like, you don't know what he did. And
well, as you know, Jerry West wasn't very happy with his portrayal in season 1 of Winning Time.
I do know that.
You knew that. So what did Spencer think of you?
Spencer was happy with me.
Okay.
I gauged him the whole time. You know, what I would say about that is regarding Jerry Buss, and I think Magic even had a problem with kind of like the portrayal. I understand that because, you know, you're encapsulating these people for 10 minutes or so, because he's only in each episode 10 or 15 minutes.
Understood.
Of a 1 hour episode, maybe 10 minutes. And I think that the actor who portrays him is literally amazing. I would have done it a little differently. I think I would have did it more my way, which is very authentic, you know, more authentic than theatrical. Yeah. And then you got to find the balance because, you know, like I said, you know, I couldn't envision Jerry West being the way he was portrayed.
Yes.
It might be true, though, but there's a reason why we've never seen that, you know. So you sprinkle a little of that in there, but I feel like that was the overwhelming aspect of his character, so I can see Jerry West being disappointed. But the performance still was great.
No, I truly do love Winning Time, and I'm looking forward to season 2 of it on Max, as it's now called. Shooting Stars is available on Peacock, on Roku, right here on Roku, starting tomorrow, June 2nd, about LeBron James' high school team and Wood Harris here on the Rich Eisen Show. I'd love to go down you were in so many great things, man. So let's just jump into Remember the Titans. Is it true you were a 30-year-old guy playing a high school kid?
I sure was. You know, black don't crack, bro. Stop playing. Now I got my little Russ. You know, we call these grays Russ. Me and you, we got a few of these. But
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, I can't keep just for men in business. So.
You're authentic. I get it. What was it like being on the set with Denzel back in your day, Wood?
Well, that was just the dreamiest thing because, you know, I'm very inspired by Denzel Washington, and I had some other instances where I was around him before that, but I didn't get to truly meet him. But I was in The Siege, very small role. I was in college at the time. I had just gotten out of college, and I got that role in the film called The Siege. And so it was a bit role, nothing he would necessarily even remember me by.
Right.
And then I came to be in the final casting between me and one other actor for a film of his called Fallen. And the role went to the other actor, Gabriel Cassius. And so I met Denzel in the callback situation. It was just me, Denzel, and the director. And the next time was about 2 years later. It was Remember the Titans. And so, you know, I got a lot of love for Denzel Washington. I'm inspired by him and Lawrence Fishburne and Sidney Poitier and like the James Cagneys and Humphrey Bogarts and
sure, all
them cats.
Do you have a good Denzel story from the set, from the movie, from the scene?
There's a few good Denzel stories. I would say, well, one thing great about Denzel Washington, at least at that time, we shot Remember the Titans in Atlanta, in Georgia, and when Denzel would come on the set, we'd be in a stadium, football stadium full of people, and you could hear people talking, you know, just regular talk, but it's loud. And literally, he could go on the field and be like, crowd would quiet up, and they first be, you know, he could actually go to like a stadium,
and people would quiet.
Yeah,
because Denzel Washington.
He can make people follow, you know. And what I really got out of him the most is because I'm always like kind of searching for what I can sponge from a person, you know. So his professionality was really great for me to see. Time, and I just need to see that because I'm artistic, so you know you might get in your own zone sometime and just be sort of selfish or just alone in your thinking and not realizing I need to be more professional about things. So at that time, early on, I learned timeliness on the set, preparation
from him,
pretty much from him. Yeah.
Wood Harris here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's get to The Wire, which is to me. And I know what I'm saying here, one of the greatest ensemble drama that HBO's put out, if not ever. It is sprawling, it is brilliant, it is thought-provoking, it is gut-wrenching, it is from year to year as well. It would completely change, cast members mostly the same as well. What was it like to receive a script from David Simon on that set with everybody else that you were acting with, Wood Harris, at the time, playing Avon Barksdale, which is a great character?
Well, that whole team is just great. David is a very thoughtful person. We know that if you know him at all, he's very thoughtful, not just in his writing, but in general, about things going on in life. And at the time that we were doing Remember the Titans, you wouldn't know it would become, as you say, the greatest project at all, or anything like that. You just wanted to, we just felt good to be actors working, and we did have a great camaraderie. The entire cast had a great camaraderie, and we went to work every day just trying to be great, like without ego, So I think one of the things that The Wire accomplished was a lot of ego-free performances. Like nobody was trying to outdo anyone. No one thought of anything but the script or the task at hand, and it's not always like that. It's actually rarely like that. A lot of the times people may have a personal agenda, try to shine more, or whatever they can do, but it wasn't like that. And we were all pretty fresh faces, and getting his script, you realize, wow, this is saying everything. You didn't need to embellish. Like, there's not a lot, from me, there's not very much like improvising. So it's everywhere literally from the script, and I like it that way, because if I'm improvising, then I'm being more like myself, know. So I'd rather the lines come from the script. Maybe improvise sometimes, but not in The Wire. Like, we're really doing the script.
Word for word, pretty much.
Word for word.
Right. And then being in scenes with Idris Elba as Stringer Bell, one of the best anti-heroes, one would say, ever. And at the time, if I'm not mistaken, The Sopranos was out. I believe Oz was also happening at the same time. And The Wire was not getting as much pub run. And when did it begin for you to actually hit in a way that is up there with those shows, if not surpass them?
It was really way beyond, like way after. During it, The Wire, this will sound like a lot now because shows don't have as much viewership, but back then TV shows popped up once a week. There was no streaming. There wasn't this availability of a show. Wasn't certainly happening twice and 3 times a week.
Right.
And so with that in mind, I'm falling off on what can you rephrase that question?
Yeah, sure. When did you realize because it hit? Like The Wire was a slow burn for people to view it as groundbreaking as it was when it was breaking ground, man. I mean, like, it's for real.
Yeah, it was many years after it was done airing, and I was surprised, to be honest with you. And I was surprised that the viewership was the way it was in the first place. But weekly, we would get about 10 million viewers, which back then wasn't very much. Now it's like a lot, but back then, it just wasn't. TV shows got 20 million viewers easily. Sopranos had way more viewership. So what I like about that is its accolades come from a genuine place, because it's not even during the time that, it's for people who watched it almost hindsight, or people who didn't watch it on the first airing of it, who give it its like props. But people who really got into it, they love the show, literally like what you just said, it's people's favorite shows. And of HBO's allotment of shows, it's the one that's spoken of at Yale and Harvard, and it's the examples are given in so many ways. And I think David Simon is the credit to that, because he's very thoughtful and patient with his scripts. His scripts are intense, thoughtful, and fairly distributed. The characters are fairly, so Mike Williams' character. Rest in peace to great K, Michael K, my guy. But
Omar's coming. Omar's coming,
bro. Everybody wanted to be Omar. I can't front. Omar had the most fun. He had the most fun. It's fun to play a bad guy, Rich. It's fun to play the bad guy. And man, he just did such a great job in that role.
With the Honey Nut Cheerios? The Honey Nut? You get his Honey Nut Cheerios, but Omar's coming.
He was
Amazing. We had him on our show in New York City when we were in New York City a few years ago, and I just loved chatting with him.
Me too, man. That was my guy, big time.
He was coming on to promote Boardwalk Empire. He was Chalky White.
Another great show, a great performance by him. But that's a great HBO show too. Which
it is.
There's so many great shows on HBO. When people say The Wire's the best, it's flattering. Because of 6 Feet Under.
Oh, sure. Right? That was another one that I think was on while The Wire was on as well.
At the tail end, I believe that came out.
Yeah.
Really, that whole list of shows is pretty phenomenal. And to say The Wire's the favorite of them, I'm just flattered by that.
And then there's, of course, a famous, GIF that's out right now of you as Avon Barksdale in a car just waving your finger.
Yeah.
Were you doing Matumbo when you were doing that?
I wasn't thinking about Matumbo at the time.
You were not?
I wasn't channeling Matumbo, but that is not in the script, obviously. Like, they're just driving by me, and when I see him, I'm like, yeah.
So you ad-libbed that.
Yeah, that's a physical ad-lib.
Okay.
Yeah. You're free to be that way. You're free to interpret the script physically. Like, you might do something physically, but yeah.
And it's kind of wild that Michael B. Jordan was in The Wire.
That's right. I'm forgetting the great Michael.
And now he's directed you in Creed.
Yep. And himself. Right. So
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. I have Wood Harris here on the Rich Eisen Show. One other question to ask you about. Do you have a good Tupac story from Above the Rim?
Wow. Okay, let me see a good Tupac story. I do.
Okay.
Well, I don't know how good the story is, but I spoke to Tupac a couple of weeks before he passed, and so I spoke to him a few days. Then he was shot, and then he lasted a week longer.
Mm-hmm.
But my interaction with Tupac was a good one. He was very artistic. And he was a mixture of things, as we know. You can tell from his music and his regular behavior. You know a lot about Tupac from that. I would tell you this about Tupac in the movie Above the Rim.
Mm-hmm.
That people might not know is, so during that, he got shot the first time, during that. All that stuff, the rape allegation and claim that came out and the shooting of him happened during Above the Rim, right? At the end of it. So at the end, I had the director and the producer come to me and it's like, okay, we're going to change up the end of this movie. He's been shot, so we think we're going to do this. We're not sure, but we think we're going to do this. So they had this entirely different path to take on the film.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out they found in the crowd a lookalike who looked just like Tupac. So if you look at Above the Rim, at the end of the movie, am I giving away too much right here, Rich? You're supposed to stop people when they're talking to you.
Not at all.
Because you're not the type of cat that's going to stop me from unveiling. Look at you, man. Your eyes look criminal right now. Stop it. You're supposed to be slowing me down, bro.
No, this is...
All right.
Yes.
Well, they utilized the lookalike who happened to look a lot like Tupac, was the same stature at the end of the film, and that's how they resolved that. Other story about Tupac, what I gained from Tupac as a professional was... I realized the power of the actor from Tupac. There's a scene in the film where it's it's not even a scene, it's a clip where we just drive up, get out of the car, enter the park, and that's the whole shot. So it's action, we drive, we get out, and walk in, cut. In that process, and we're in separate cars. I'm in my own car, and Tupac is in another car. He has a young lady driving him to the game. So he reaches, back in the days, they used to have knobs.
Sure.
And if you remember the ones without the little thing, so you might slip up.
Yes, right.
So Tupac, we're dating ourselves right now. That's aging us tremendously. Like, I'm talking about a knob in the car.
You have to roll the window up too. Yeah, sure.
They had a roll-up window, right.
You're right.
So Tupac grabbed and slipped. So there was a rhythm to it, right? And did it again, and it was like, cut, because he hadn't gotten out of the car. Yeah. So but he said, you guys got to fix this. This ain't working for me. So they said, okay, let's just try it again. I think you'll be able to get it. So second time, same thing happened, right? He pulls the knob.
Yeah. Yes.
He pulls it. Same thing happens. Runs out the car, gets out the car, goes to the trailer, stays in the trailer like 2 hours, right? So what did I learn from that? I learned the power of the actor, because they had to come, put another knob on the car for him. He chilled out, basically smoked weed in the trailer for 2 hours. He had the set smelling like whatever it was going around.
Right?
Yeah, so But I really did gain that because it was a real gain. I realized that once they start filming you in a movie, they're pretty much at your whim after that.
Interesting. We had Alan Hughes, the director, on last month because he's also was directing the documentary on Tupac and his mom.
Oh yeah.
And he had a history with Tupac as well that wasn't very I
watched the
rosy.
I saw it. Yeah.
So anyway, he said that if Tupac had lived, he would have rivaled Denzel in terms of Oscars. Is what he said with his acting ability. Now you've worked with both. Obviously, Tupac was in a different state, but that's what he said. He said he had a genius about him, and
that's a fact.
rivaled.
Oh,
Okay.
that's a fact. I don't know about rivaling Denzel Washington. I mean, not to say that actors don't rival Denzel Washington,
Right.
but I wouldn't give him that only because he had more than one career, and I feel like his career in hip hop music would have been something to not allow him to become a great actor in a sense.
Interesting. Wood Harris, you are great in everything that you do, and I could literally sit here for another half hour with all the stuff that you have done, and I cannot wait for everybody to check out Shooting Stars on Peacock starting on Friday, available on Roku. Before I let you go, do you have any 2 cents on the NBA Finals? What do you think is going to happen between the Nuggets and the Heat?
It's easy to say the Nuggets might get this done quickly. People feel like the layoff for them is a detriment. I don't know about that. I don't think the layoff of time is a big detriment. It might hurt them in game 1. But to be honest with you, they have a point center. They have the most unique basketball player I think I've maybe ever seen. And that guy is that guy's the best, man.
He is.
He literally might be the best. And we don't give him credit because they're in Denver and stuff like or whatever, and he's a center and I will say this, I feel like Denver will probably win. It might be a gentleman's sweep even. But you can't really, Jimmy Butler is and the Heat are tough.
They are.
They're literally tough. And I wouldn't say that Denver is tough. What they are skilled, and they have the best in that position, but they're not necessarily tough as some of the other teams, right? I don't know if I can qualify that completely, but yeah, I feel like the tougher team might be Miami because they've been through much, they've been tested a lot, and I feel like their connection is brotherly. They're bonded together in this thing now,
Right.
and I feel like Denver is. They don't have to have those things because they have such a great player.
Well, the point center's one-legged off-leg three-point shot
With
over
the bird joint from back here.
over the Shooting Stars producer was quite something.
Exactly.
I will never forget that shot from Jokic that helped eliminate LeBron. Hey, Wood, thanks for coming on here.
Thank you for having me, Rich.
Greatly appreciate it. I think everything you said, I was hanging on every word. I wasn't, what'd you say? I had eyes of like
Criminal eyes,
Criminal
man.
eyes.
Okay?
Criminal eyes. Okay, Rich Criminal Eisen right here, along with Wood Harris at Noblewood on Instagram. Check out Shooting Stars on Peacock, available on Roku starting tomorrow. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.